Good afternoon, everybody. This is the news with b.c.begley. I am your host, and it's Thursday, November the 20th, 2025, and let's jump right into the top news stories for today. Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act with veto-proof majorities, but opponents are preparing an alternative strategy to block it. A document from House Speaker Mike Johnson outlines 5 flaws in the bill, emphasizing potential risks to federal investigations and national security. The memo argues that forcing the DOJ to declassify materials from other agencies is unwise and that sources and methods must be protected. It also asserts that declassification should occur only in coordination with the Attorney General, effectively giving the administration the final say, Ken Klippenstein has reported. Critics warn this national security rationale may be used to prevent the release of the DOJ and FBI's extensive Epstein-related files. The U.S. House of Representatives unanimously passed a bill to repeal a controversial Senate-added provision allowing senators to sue the federal government for $500,000 if investigators obtain their phone records without notice. The provision, inserted into a government funding bill, had sparked bipartisan criticism for being self-serving and bypassing debate. Supporters such as the Senate Majority Leader John Thune argued it provides accountability for what they view as Justice Department overreach, while critics objected to its secretive inclusion. The new House bill would roll back the measure, which is retroactive to 2022 and could allow 8 GOP senators targeted in the special counsel Jack Smith's investigation to sue, CBS News has reported. Several senators say they won't seek damages, though Lindsey Graham signaled he may pursue a case, arguing the penalty is necessary to deter future violations. A draft White House executive order would seek to override state AI laws by encouraging federal legal challenges, pressuring states through grant conditions, and promoting a national regulatory standard. The plan, involving AI advisor David Sachs, would create an AI litigation task force under the Attorney General and direct agencies to identify and confront state rules that conflict with federal priorities. It also instructs federal regulators, like the FCC and the FTC, to consider national reporting and disclosure standards that could preempt state requirements. The proposal has sparked tension among Republicans, dividing those who support federal uniformity from those who see it as overreach or a, quote, big tech bailout, Axios has reported. While the executive order cannot itself preempt state law, it can drive agency action, motivate litigation, and increase pressure on Congress to act. President Trump's proposal to send Americans $2,000 tariff rebate checks is meeting broad resistance from Senate Republicans. Many GOP senators argue the plan would require congressional approval and say tariff revenues should instead be used to pay down the national debt. Leaders like John Thune and Shelley Moore Capito emphasize deficit reduction, while others, including John Kennedy, question the legality of issuing checks without Congress. Some Republicans also warned the payments could be inflationary, even if they meant to help lower-income Americans, Axios has reported. Overall, GOP senators from leadership to pro-Trump newcomers have shown little enthusiasm for the idea. President Trump approved a 28-point peace plan for Russia and Ukraine, developed by his advisors, including Steve Witkoff, Vice President J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, and Jared Kushner, though Ukraine was not involved in drafting it. The plan reportedly aims to provide security guarantees and durable peace, but Kyiv has only been briefed on its broad contours and sees its timing amid a Ukrainian corruption scandal as potentially opportunistic for Russia. A U.S. delegation led by Army Secretary Dan Driscoll arrived in Kyiv to discuss military strategy and support reviving peace talks amid ongoing Russian missile and drone attacks targeting energy and civilian infrastructure. Russia has continued heavy strikes across Ukraine, killing civilians, damaging residential buildings, and forcing emergency power cuts ahead of winter, NBC News has reported. Ukrainian leaders, including Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, have called for increased Western pressure and military aid to defend the country and counter Russian aggression. Federal prosecutors charged Lawrence Reed with committing a terrorist attack for allegedly setting a woman on fire aboard a Chicago Blue Line train. Surveillance and witness accounts indicate Reed doused the 26-year-old woman with gasoline and ignited her while she tried to flee, leaving her hospitalized with critical burns. Reed, who is 50 years old, was disruptive in federal court, insisting he wanted to represent himself and repeatedly pleading guilty. The attack drew comparisons to a fatal commuter train stabbing in Charlotte earlier this year and intensified criticism of safety in major Democratic-led cities, CNN has reported. Chicago authorities said they are working closely with federal investigators and emphasized the use of surveillance and other security measures on transit systems. Former U.S. Vice President Dick Cheney's funeral will be held Thursday at Washington National Cathedral, with former Presidents Joe Biden and George W. Bush in attendance. Bush will offer a tribute, and Cheney's daughter Liz Cheney and his grandchildren are also scheduled to speak. Cheney, who died on November the 3rd at age 84 from complications of pneumonia and heart disease, served as a powerful and polarizing figure in U.S. politics, including roles as Congressman, Secretary of Defense, and Vice President. He played a central role in the post-9/11 response, including the War on Terror and the Iraq invasion, earning praise from Bush for his integrity and seriousness of purpose, ABC News has reported. Cheney had long-standing tensions with President Donald Trump, criticizing him after the January 6 attack and endorsing Kamala Harris in 2024, prompting harsh public rebukes from the former president. Representative Sheila McCormick, a Democrat from Florida, was indicted by federal grand jury for allegedly stealing $5 million in FEMA overpayments to her family's health care company and then funneling part of it into her congressional campaign. If convicted, she faces up to 53 years in prison, this according to the Justice Department. The indictment alleges that McCormick and her brother received the overpayment in 2021 under a COVID vaccination staffing contract and then laundered the money. She has previously denied any wrongdoing in ongoing House ethics investigations related to her campaign funding, Axios has reported. McCormick is also facing a 2026 primary challenge from teacher Elijah Manley, who has raised more campaign funds than her in recent months while campaigning on corruption allegations. A group of House Democrats joined Republicans on Wednesday to block a measure that would have removed Representative Corey Mills, a Republican from Florida, from the Armed Services and Foreign Affairs Committee. The vote, forced by Representative Nancy Mace, came shortly after the House Ethics Committee announced an investigation into Mills over allegations of domestic abuse, stolen valor, and financial misconduct, which he denies. The motion to refer the censure measure passed 310 to 103, with 8 Republicans and 95 Democrats supporting the effort to advance it, Axios has reported. High-profile Democrats voting with Republicans included Nancy Pelosi, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and Ayanna Pressley, while several Republican lawmakers opposed quashing the measure. Representative Sheila McCormick did not vote, coinciding with her federal indictment earlier on Wednesday. President Donald Trump signed a bipartisan bill requiring the Justice Department to release Jeffrey Epstein-related files, following months of political tension and initial resistance from the White House. President Trump announced the signing on Truth Social, again calling the effort a Democratic hoax, even as he approved it. The law directs Attorney General Pam Bondi to release unclassified records within 30 days, though she may redact information that could jeopardize ongoing investigations. The issue has created rare divisions among Republicans, with survivors of Epstein and several lawmakers urging transparency despite President Trump's continued attacks on Democrats, NBC News has reported. The files gained renewed attention after recent document releases linked to Epstein, though President Trump denies any wrongdoing despite past associations with him. All right, here's a look at the live weather radar from the National Weather Service. And let's go into the national weather forecast for today. Widespread rain may produce flash flooding across the southern plains and into the Ozarks today. Numerous instances of flash flooding are expected in south central Texas, including the hill country. There will also be a risk of isolated severe thunderstorms across the southern plains today, where an instance or two of severe wind, hail, or a brief tornado may occur. The United States has proposed a new plan to end Russia's war in Ukraine that would require Kyiv to cede territory in the Donbass, reduce its military by half, and abandon certain weapons, this according to multiple news reports. The framework, reportedly developed in consultation with Russian officials, has been described as heavily tilted toward Moscow and favorable to President Vladimir Putin. Ukrainian officials called the plan a, quote, non-starter, without significant changes, as it mirrors many Russian demands and would roll back U.S. military assistance. The proposal also includes recognizing Russian as an official language in Ukraine and granting official status to the Ukrainian branch of the Russian Orthodox Church, Al Jazeera has reported. Russia has denied any new peace plan exists, emphasizing that official channels, not media reports, should guide negotiations. Former Canadian Olympic snowboarder Ryan Wedding is accused of running a multinational drug cartel and orchestrating the murder of a federal witness by posting the victim's image on a fake news website. The FBI, calling him a modern-day Pablo Escobar, has raised the reward for his capture to $15 million and says he is hiding out in Mexico under the Sinaloa cartel's protection. Wedding faces charges including witness tampering, murder, money laundering, drug trafficking, and intimidation, and U.S. authorities have also arrested 10 alleged accomplices, including Canadians and a Colombian national. The cartel, allegedly the largest supplier of cocaine to Canada, is said to generate over $1 billion annually, with operatives involved in murder for hire and other criminal enterprises, the BBC has reported. Wedding, who competed in the 2002 Winter Olympics, reportedly began his criminal empire after his release from U.S. prison in 2011 and is believed to have ordered dozens of killings worldwide. A Russian spy ship, the Yantar, has entered British waters and reportedly aimed lasers at RAF pilots. This, according to the UK Defence Secretary John Healey. The vessel, designed for intelligence gathering and mapping undersea cables, is operating near the edge of Britain's exclusive economic zone north of Scotland. Healey warned Russia that Britain is monitoring the ship closely and has military options ready if it moves further south, while Russia claims the Yantar is a research vessel operating in international waters. This is the first reported instance of Russian lasers targeting British aircraft, though the Yantar has been noticed in the United Kingdom's waters earlier this year, CNN has reported. Healey described the incident as part of a, quote, new era of threat, emphasizing ongoing vigilance against Russian incursions and sabotage across Europe. NASA released close-up images of the interstellar comet 3I Atlas, which is making a brief pass through the solar system. The comet, only the third confirmed interstellar object, recently passed 18 million miles from Mars, where multiple NASA and ESA spacecraft observed it. Ground-based telescopes and the James Webb Space Telescope are also tracking the comet, which will come the closest to Earth, 167 million miles away, in mid-December, before returning back to interstellar space. Estimates suggest the comet measures between 440 meters and 5.6 kilometers across, and may have originated in a star system that's older than our own, offering scientists a rare glimpse into the deep past, The Guardian has reported. NASA emphasized that 3I Atlas is a natural comet, not an alien spacecraft, despite public speculation. Starting Thursday, Meta will notify Australian users under the age of 16 that their Facebook, Instagram, and Threads account will be deactivated by the 10th of December to comply with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's government's social media ban. Affected users will have 14 days to download their content and can regain access once they turn 16 or choose to delete their accounts permanently. Messenger is exempt, though Meta has developed ways for users to keep access without a Facebook account. Age verification will rely on Meta's estimations, facial age assurance, or government ID, with the company acknowledging potential errors in the process, The Guardian has reported. Other platforms like TikTok and Snapchat have committed to complying with the ban, while X and YouTube have expressed opposition or are considering legal challenges. JetBlue Airways will expand its European network next year, with daily seasonal flights from Boston to Milan starting May the 11th and Barcelona beginning April the 16th. The airline is using its long-range Airbus 321LR planes, allowing single-aisle jets to operate transatlantic routes more efficiently and cost-effectively than larger twin-aisle aircraft. These new routes target higher-paying vacationers, with JetBlue's profitable Mint business class complementing its existing service to London, Paris, Amsterdam, Edinburgh, and Dublin. The Milan flight will be JetBlue's longest, lasting about 9 hours westbound and nearly 8 hours eastbound, CNBC has reported. The expansion reflects a broader industry trend of U.S. airlines adding long-haul international destinations and premium seating to drive profits and optimize fleet utilization. Typhoon Kalmegi struck central Vietnam on November the 7th, bringing powerful winds, heavy flooding, and widespread destruction. The storm also unearthed the centuries-old wooden frame of a merchant ship that was buried beneath the beach, estimated to be 55 feet long and 16 feet wide. Carbon dating confirmed the ship was built between the 14th and the 16th centuries. Previously discovered in 2023 but quickly reburied by shifting sands, the typhoon's coastal erosion exposed the hull more clearly, giving researchers a rare opportunity to study it, the Weather Channel has reported. For local residents, the shipwreck became both a symbol of resilience after the storm and a reminder of their rich maritime heritage. China has announced a suspension of Japanese seafood imports, escalating tensions after Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi suggested Tokyo could take military action if China attacks Taiwan. Beijing cited concerns over treated Fukushima wastewater, but framed the move as a response to Takaichi's comments, calling them damaging to China-Japan relations. The dispute has prompted travel warnings, diplomatic summoning, and heightened rhetoric, including threats of severe consequences from China if Japan intervenes militarily. The tensions coincide with Chinese Coast Guard maneuvers near disputed East China Sea islands and provocative drone flights near Japan, further straining regional security, ABC News has reported. The fallout is affecting Japan economically, particularly in tourism and retail, while the United States has weighed in, urging de-escalation without directly challenging China's claims on Taiwan. Indonesia's Mount Semeru, Java's highest peak, erupted on Wednesday, sending hot ash, lava, and gas up to 7 kilometers down its slopes and prompting authorities to raise the alert to the highest level. More than 300 residents from 3 different villages were evacuated, and the danger zone was extended to 8 kilometers from the crater, with people advised to avoid a river path of lava flow. Around 178 people, including climbers, guides, and park officials, were all stranded. The volcano has a history of deadly eruptions, including in December of 2021, when 51 people were killed and hundreds more affected, The Guardian has reported. Indonesia, located on the Pacific Ring of Fire, is highly prone to volcanic activity and earthquakes, with tens of thousands of people living on Semeru's fertile slopes. All 267 passengers aboard the South Korean ferry Queen Genuvia II were rescued after the vessel ran aground on rocks near an island off the country's southeast coast. The 26,000-ton ferry remains stuck on a reef but is stable with no risk of sinking or capsizing. 27 people sustained minor injuries, and passengers described the impact as a loud bang that tilted the ship, prompting them to don life jackets and wait on deck. The incident occurred near the site of the 2014 Seoul ferry disaster, which claimed over 300 lives, and several passengers cited that tragedy as a lesson in staying calm, the BBC has reported. Authorities plan to move the grounded vessel ashore at high tide for salvage. Today is November the 20th, 2025, and on this day in history, in the year 1910, Francisco I launched a revolt against the Mexican president, beginning the Mexican Revolution. In the year 1945, the Nuremberg trials began, bringing high-ranking Nazi officials to justice for war crimes. And in the year 1985, Microsoft released Windows 1.0, its first graphical operating system. November the 20th is also National Children's Day, or Universal Children's Day. All right, it's 19 past the hour, almost 20 past the hour. Let's do a quick market update. The Nasdaq is down 0.88%, gold is down 0.39%, oil is down 0.43%, Bitcoin is down 4.39%. Yikes. The Dow Jones is down 0.53%, and the S&P 500 is down 0.66%. So the lesson we learned today is that everything in the market is down. All right, let's real quick while I got you here. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. That way you can stay up to date on all of our news stories and our live show. And let's go into the last block of news for today. President Donald Trump announced he will meet with New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani at the White House on Friday. Mamdani, a 34-year-old Democratic socialist who defeated former Governor Andrew Cuomo in both the primary and the general election, requested the meeting. President Trump, who had endorsed Cuomo and threatened to withhold federal funds if Mamdani won, referred to Mamdani as a, quote, communist mayor in a Truth Social post, and label that Mamdani has denied. Mamdani's office said the meeting will focus on public safety, economic security, and affordability issues for New Yorkers, including child care, rent, energy cost, and public transportation, reflecting concerns raised by voters in the recent election, CNBC has reported. Mamdani also emphasized that he plans to speak plainly with President Trump about the struggles facing New York City. Federal agents have now arrested over 250 people in a North Carolina immigration crackdown focused on the Charlotte area, part of President Donald Trump's nationwide mass deportation efforts targeting both big cities and small towns. The operation, dubbed Operation Charlotte's Web, has spread to the Raleigh area, causing fear in immigrant communities, protest, school absenteeism, and business closures. DHS says it is focusing on criminal illegal immigrants, but has provided few details. Similar crackdowns are planned in New Orleans, with about 250 agents expected for a 2-month operation, the Associated Press has reported. Local Republicans support the actions, while the ACLU is coordinating legal support for affected residents. Anna Kepner, an 18-year-old from Florida, was found dead aboard a Carnival Horizon cruise ship on November the 8th, under a bed wrapped in a blanket and covered with life vests. The cause of death has not yet been determined. Investigators are examining possible causes, including an altercation with her stepbrother, a medical emergency, or an overdose, and are reviewing security footage and access records. A court filing notes that her step-sibling could face charges, ABC News has reported. The FBI is investigating, and Carnival Cruise Line is cooperating with authorities while supporting the family. The House of Representatives voted 214 to 209 against censoring Representative Stacey Plaskett or removing her from the Intelligence Committee over texts with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. In 2019, Plaskett exchanged messages with Epstein during a congressional hearing, using some information he provided to question former Trump attorney Michael Cohen. Plaskett defended her actions, saying she sought information to, quote, get at the truth, and did not consider Epstein a friend, ABC News has reported. The release records show she initiated contact and used Epstein's tips during her questioning, though she maintains the exchange was just professional. What once seemed a near-certain Federal Reserve rate cut in December now looks uncertain, with officials divided over whether inflation or weak hiring poses a greater threat. Some policymakers, like Boston Fed President Susan Collins, favor keeping rates steady to curb persistent price increases, while others, such as Fed Governor Christopher Waller, emphasize sluggish hiring and support a rate cut. The Fed faces heightened uncertainty due to interrupted economic data from the federal government's shutdown, with the September jobs and inflation reports only now being released, the Associated Press has reported. Wall Street currently sees a 50-50 chance of a rate cut, reflecting the split among the 19-member rate-setting committee. 3 men were arrested for attempting to bribe a juror with $100,000 in the Brooklyn trial of former heavyweight boxer Goran Gogic, prompting a federal judge to dismiss the jury. Gogic faces charges of smuggling over 18 tons of cocaine to Europe via U.S. ports. The bribery plot, captured in recorded conversations, involved multiple meetings with the juror. The trial will resume with an anonymous jury after a 30-day break, the Associated Press has reported. If convicted, Gogic could face 10 years to life in prison. Authorities describe his operations as among the largest cocaine smuggling schemes in U.S. history. Cases of infant botulism linked to ByHeart baby formula have doubled to at least 31 across 15 different states since August the 9th. This according to the FDA, though no deaths have yet been reported. Symptoms include poor feeding, muscle weakness, and breathing difficulties. Despite an expanded recall, the formula remains on store shelves and online. Parents of affected infants have filed lawsuits, alleging the product was defective and that the company was negligent, CBS News has reported. The FDA is testing leftover and unopened formula, but is cautious that negative results do not guarantee the product is safe. Massachusetts homeowners in Arlington face fines of up to $200 for using gas-powered leaf blowers under a new upkeep and noise control law, which phases in a full ban for homeowners by March 15th of 2026. Electric blowers remain legal year-round, but with time restrictions. The rules also apply to hire landscapers, and first-time offenders receive warnings before fines escalate. The law reflects a broader national push to reduce pollution and noise from gas-powered lawn equipment, with similar bans in Washington, D.C., California, and dozens of other cities, though some states like Texas and Florida block local bans, Daily Mail has reported. Financial incentives for electric equipment are being offered in several states. A federal court blocked Texas from using new Republican-drawn voting maps for the 2026 midterms, ruling they were racially gerrymandered, and then ordered the state to use its 2021 congressional lines instead. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has appealed to the Supreme Court. The maps, passed in August, added 5 Republican-leaning districts, while similar disputes over redistricting have occurred in California and Utah, the BBC has reported. Critics argue gerrymandering allows politicians to choose voters rather than the other way around. Okay, everybody, it's 27 past the hour, and that is our show for today. A little shorter than normal, but that's okay. I hope all of you enjoyed it, and I will see everyone tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time for another episode of The News with B.C. Begley. And until then, I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Stay warm.